One of the things I really love about making these videos is get the community, hearing what you have to say. And so to make it maybe a little bit more of a conversation, I'm going to reply to some of your comments. So I'm going to reply to a number of comments on some of our recent videos. If this is something that you enjoy and you want to see more of, make sure to let me know in the comments below, and maybe I can make this like a monthly thing or do some as shorts. Let me know. We'll see. We'll try it out. So the first comment I'm going to reply to actually wasn't on one of these videos. It was on a community post. I think it was on Facebook. I'm so sorry to the person who suggested this because I can't find your actual post. But they suggested, as far as the backstory, 1 page per level. And I really like this suggestion as it provides some guidance on how much backstory you should create. Plus, look, it makes sense. If you're level 1, you're just starting out as an adventurer. Sure, you've lived a life before adventuring, but if you're level 5, well, you've just had more experiences, and that also helps fill in, like, your notoriety. So that way the GM has an idea of maybe, like, what would people in the town and region know about you from the other jobs and adventures you've done. And if you're playing a high-level campaign, that's even more stuff, and it's more likely that people would know about you, and that you'd have maybe some plot hooks from your other adventuring. Was there somebody you pissed off? Was there someone you didn't save? Was there someone who you did save who might be able to do you a favor? You can build all of that in. Next up is from JMA 3974. He says, I'm running a 100% homebrew campaign, so I'm taking a bit more of a heavy hand with the backstory. I get the general concept of what the players want, I figure out how to massage it into the world, and then create a framework to build details. I'm working with them currently on negotiation of what this story looks like. I don't want to dictate every detail, but as a GM, I get some say in where they are born and some of the fortune and folly they've encountered before the start of the actual game. I like this idea of negotiation and collaboration, especially when you are approaching a homebrew game. You and your players can work together both on the story and the characters. As a GM, being able to fill in some details in the player's backstory can be a lot of help. I've had games where I've told my players, you need to be from or have a tie to this town. I've let them fill in those details and suggested ways to make it work if they're drawing a blank, but that allowed me to get the campaign started and provide the initial motivation for the adventure. And it goes the other way. Players can help provide input and guidance for the GM, which can be so helpful because I know I work best when I have something to work off of rather than just coming up with everything from scratch. And with a homebrew, then you can be playing the game that everyone wants to be playing. Next is from Madinar7627. For me, the biggest mistake is either having no NPCs in your backstory or all of them being dead. NPCs are the easiest way for your DM to connect your character into the world. Yes, I think especially the they're all dead part can be a mistake a lot of people fall into. I think I may have even kind of done this with my first character. And look, the dead family motivation is a bit of a trope, but it does work. But even if your family or like your entire town is dead, you still probably know someone, maybe whomever is responsible for their deaths. Maybe it's someone you met and helped you along the way between, you know, your crater of a town and where you met the party, a distant relative, friends, someone who just wasn't in that town. Have some NPCs in your backstory. So the next one was left on the Are You Playing the Right Game video from Sean Hillman. Hi, Sean. He's one of our patrons. In terms of third space, even if you're doing it at someone's house, we try and change the space so it does not feel so much like home. Special food, music, changing furniture, things of that nature that make the space different. Everyone helps, of course, and cleans up, returns items after. When I mentioned that third space, I hadn't really thought of this, but I do this to some extent. I think we've even shown our setup in a video a while ago when we've hosted games. We haven't done a ton, but setting up the game table, putting on some atmosphere music, and we've even like changed up our lights because we've got a couple of smart lights. It's just made it feel a lot more like our gaming space rather than just our dining room table. We'd love to have a dedicated gaming room, and if you have that in your home, that can also help make it a third space. Speaking of patrons, I want to take a moment to thank all of our patrons, especially Alicia. If you enjoy our videos and want to directly support us, Patreon is the best way to do that. Plus, you get a couple of really cool perks along with it. So head on over to our Patreon page today and check out the perks of being a patron. All right, back to your comments. Okay, so this was on the Should You Know Each Other's Character Sheet video from Chaos Sonic 127. Counterpoint, sometimes you have character secrets on your sheet that you don't want other people to see. I had a game I was in on Roll20 where other players could see my sheet. Ooh, I hadn't thought about that. I got permission from the GM to lie on my sheet so I could keep some class features attached to my backstory secret. 10 sessions later, the players were super surprised and horrified when that hidden class feature came into play and an enemy mage pulled hundreds of ghost fragments out of my body. Oh, that's fun. I hadn't really thought about online games where you can view other people's character sheets, and I think this is a good point. There are some things you might want to keep secret. I tried to mention this in the video, but I probably wasn't super clear. I agree, yes, there are some things you might want to keep secret. This seems like a really good approach to keep that feature a secret surprise for the party, you know, letting the GM know and working with the GM on that. I think that's an aspect that's super important if you're doing any kind of secret, surprise, or especially a betrayal aspect to your character. Make sure your GM is in on it and supports the idea. So here's another one on that same video from Rivers RPG channel. Plus, sometimes one player can't make it, but someone else can run it. Of course, I should have mentioned this. There's times where a player might have to miss a game. They got sick, something came up, whatever it is, being able to have another player play that character can really help. I generally like to have a reason the character isn't there when my players miss, but especially if we're picking up like in the middle of a battle or something that the character really needs to be there because they have a special ability for that scenario, then I think it makes sense that somebody else play that character. All right, this one was left on our 5 conflicts for character development video from Marvel X42. Yes, a thing I saw that Will Wheaton did that I use is before you even start the campaign, have each character tell you, the DM, 2 secrets about their character. One secret that would be an inconvenience, embarrassment if anyone found out, and one that you really don't want anyone to find out. These are things you can use later in the game as some of these things that the PCs have to deal with. I've seen this idea a few different places and I really like it. It's something that I want to use the next time I run a game. Another alternative I've seen is to give the GM 3 rumors. 2 of them are true and 1 of them is false. And I think that's also a fun alternative of, well, what's the false rumor? And like why you can create a fun story of like why that rumor started or just the chaos and fun that ensues from having a false rumor about you circulating around. All right, so this comment was left on house rules you need from Deborn. Wile E. Coyote Gravity. If you're pushed off the ledge, resolve the fall on your next turn so you can try and save yourself. This, I think, is going on my house rules list to consider. I also think it's great because it gives the party a chance to save you. Now, look, I know there are reactions like Featherfall and clear rules for falling, but I do like the opportunity for the story moments and the problem solving that this house rule could allow. It would kind of depend on the game. If you're playing like a gritty, realistic game, I don't think this would fit, but if you're playing a more like cinematic or even cartoonish in the best way game, I can see this being a really fun house rule. This was from Joshua9531. I like the concept of the I know a guy rule. I have an almost identical rule. The only difference is to use that, it costs inspiration, but it also allows players to start with a point of inspiration. But I also allow players to start with a point of inspiration each session. Feels like a good balance for my group. The addition of the inspiration cost, I think, is a great way to help prevent this rule from being abused. Of course, you have to be using inspiration, but I think this is a good addition to this house rule. So thank you so much for everybody whose comments I replied to, as well as everyone who's left comments on our videos. I read them all. It means a lot, and it's one of the reasons that we make videos is to, engage with people, to get our ideas out there, but also to hear from you. So I'd love to hear what your reactions to some of these ideas are in the comments below, and make sure to let me know if this is something that you want to see us do moving forward. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Roll for Initiative. Bye!